A young lady met a young man while still schooling in the US. They've been dating for a couple of years, not less or more than 5 years. By all accounts, they have every indications of getting married. When the time was right, they decided to come down to Igbo land, to Nigeria, to start their traditional marriage ceremonies. Now, one of the Igbo practices or traditions that accompanies the traditional marriage is called the Ijuese. The Ijuese is a time where parents of the couple, both the groom and the bride, go into the community to ask questions about the lineage and ancestry of the intended bride or the intended groom. Now, on the course of this investigation, they discovered that the bride's family are Anosu. Immediately, the groom's family withdrew and insisted that their son would no longer be married into this family. In Igbo culture, the term Osu refers to a group of people who were historically ostracized and considered outcasts because of their ritual dedication. The Osu system is one of the most controversial and misunderstood aspects of Igbo traditional society, and this still impacts intimate relationships even to this current day. What is Osu? Osu in literal terms refers to a person who was dedicated to a deity, either voluntarily or through compulsion. They are also considered as properties to the deity, and therefore we know them as untouchable, and this makes them socially separate from freeborns that we know as Ndidiala. Osu groups are often excluded from certain communal roles like kingship, title taking, intermarriages with non-Osu, and their status also prevents interactions in certain religious or spiritual and social gatherings. Now, what are the parameters that makes one an Osu? The first one is ritual dedication to a deity. Dedication to a deity. Individuals or families can dedicate themselves to deities because they want to escape social injustice or they want to enjoy certain privileges meant for deities. Punishment. Being an Osu could be done by a person's ancestor. Sometimes it could be to avoid death, punishment, or it could be as an avenue to serve for penance. Number 2. Refuge or asylum seeking. People fleeing from slavery, punishment, or persecution could take refuge in a shrine, therefore becoming Osu in an exchange for the sanctuary that they'll be getting from this deity. This is where the shrine would protect them, but in societal view, they'll be treated differently. Punishment or stigmatization. In some communities, criminals or people accused of certain taboos could be declared Osu as a form of social punishment. Birth into Osu lineage. Children born to Osu parents inherit this status automatically, regardless of their beliefs or their social behavior. What are the social implications associated with Osu? Emination. They could not marry a non-Osu, and any sort of relationship between an Osu and a non-Osu would immediately result to disownment and adoption of the Osu status by the non-Osu. Burial or funeral segregations. Osu were often buried differently, and their burial site is at the place we know as Ofia Alose, meaning a forest dedicated to a deity. Stigma in modern times. Although Osu is illegal under Nigerian law and often denounced by churches, discrimination still persists subtly in most parts of Igbo lands, especially when marriage discussions are ongoing. What are the spiritual context of Osu? From a spiritual lens, especially within Ordinary, the Osu were always believed to be closer to the deities to whom they were dedicated to. This is why they are often viewed as spiritually powerful and they are also feared, hence the isolation they encounter at the hands of the Diala, because the Diala are operating from a place of fear and not wanting to anger them, and as consequences of angering them, would anger the deities who would basically step in to defend whom they are dedicated or they have been charged to protect. Some, some scholars argue that the idea of Osu was not originally about inferiority, but about ritual purity and sacredness, which later got twisted into social discrimination under colonial interference and changing power structure. What is the modern effort to end the practice of Osun? Igbo intellects, traditional rulers, and organizations have been working to abolish the Osu caste system. Legal frameworks in Nigeria prohibit caste discrimination, but social reforms are still ongoing. Some communities now recognize that there is no distinction between an Osu or a Diala. Now, in interrelationships or social relationships between the Biala and the Osun, this discrimination is very subtle and almost non existent. But in cases or scenarios of marriage, this is where this discrimination is about to happen. Hence, the story I told at the beginning of this lecture of the woman whom the groom's family rejected because of her Osu status. So we need to combat this Osu discrimination, especially in situations of marriages. We also need to remember that there are some communities that Osu never existed. Communities like Nri, communities like Onri, they did not have any practice or any association with Osu. It is often believed that if somebody was an Osu and they marry a person from Onri or they go to Onri, they will be ritually cleansed of their Osu status. Don't forget to like this page and follow more for Igbo cultural facts. And until next time, yeah guys, yeah.